So today I call my spa cutting day. It's a day when I don't feel like writing patterns. I don't feel like sewing. I just want to cut because I want to use up some of my fabric. I've decided I'm going to cut up Christmas fabric. I've had so much Christmas fabric for so long, and some of it very vintage. I've got some Debbie Mum and some all kinds of cool things, some old timeless treasures from the 1997s, and all kinds of different things I'm going to use. Anyway, I have this die on loan. You may recognize it. It is the tumbler, the AccuQuilt Go tumbler 4.5 inch, which is 4-inch finished tumbler die, item number 55445. And I've decided while it's on loan to me, I'm going to make some good use of it. And I've decided to cut and use this as my scrap buster, the tumbler die. I've never made a quilt before in tumbler, and it's supposed to be very easy. And I'm looking forward to some simple projects. But today, I just want to cut fabric. On my ironing board right now, and I have my tumbler die, and as you can see, I've marked it. And actually, this was one of the earlier dies I marked, and I marked it at 5 1/4. And if I were to go back now, I'd probably mark it at 5 inches. So because I think I can save another 1/4 inch of fabric. So I'm going to cut 5-inch strips. Now I showed you I was doing red and green, and I also found this blue medley in my stash. And actually, I thought this was all Debbie Mum. But these are Debbie Mum. But this one's Debbie Mum, and I think I have a third one here someplace, which is actually another artist that did something similar. But anyway, I have all kinds of other fabrics, and I've decided to go with this peace on earth and these animals. I've picked out this gold, if you can see it, and this blue star fabric. So let's do the blue star. So I know I want to cut 5-inch strips. I always cut my strips on my ironing board, and this is a standard width of fabric, 22 inches, which is 42 to 44 finished. So I'm going to give it a quick, get rid of the worst of the wrinkles because I want to fold it. So I'm going to now fold this in 5-inch strips, or 5-inch width of fabric. And I'm going to fold my first one over. Now this is not pressed yet, I'll get to that. And I always like to have a little metal tape measure. It's really good for me to let it sit where I want it. I want to cut it 5 inches, so I kind of look and I go, okay. Now I'm going to line up the seam because I'm thinking that's a straight line. While the fabric may not be cut straight, I know my seam, if I use my seam, it would be straight. So that's, let me go a little bit bigger. It's just about 5 inches, so I'm good. So the next thing I'm going to do is look on the other side here. Now this is a long piece, so I'm going to disregard that, and I want to look. And I could go, yeah, I can do 5 here. So now I'm going to press a seam here. And then I'm going to pull it up a little, work my way, use the whole ironing board, and I'm going to smooth out the next wrinkly section. My fabric, as you know, some of it is old, so it's been sitting folded for a really long time. So I always press and press and press. So now I'm going to fold it back the other way. So we just want to make sure we're going to leave the side folded seam here, that they're lining up, because that's going to be, to make sure you're folding it straight. But I'm going to check, I'm going to feel where my fold is and look and go, yep, I'm at 5 inches, and I'm going to, yep, just a little bit over. So let me scale this back just a little, and I'm going to touch it. Okay, I'm happy. So now I'm going to press again. This time I'm going to actually press and let the iron sit there for a minute. All right, now I'm going to pull it a little bit up on my iron, and I've decided I'm going to do 6 folds. Now, because these are with the fabric, they're actually, each one is 2 layers, which will mean I will have to then subcut that into 3 sets of 2 layers, okay, because each of these is 2 layers. Every time I fold it, there's 2 layers of fabric. So we have to remember that because we don't want to cut more than, how many? 6 layers of fabric. Okay, so I'm going to fold this over now. I'm going to check, and I'll check from time to time, but this is all I do for rough cutting. Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I can do 2 more. That's if there's 2 more here, and if not, I'll just use what I have. Looks like I'm going to be a little short, but you know, the idea is to use up your scraps, not to just use half of them and put the rest away. So I have a bad habit of that. Okay, so now let's count. Okay, so I have one, this is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So I know I can't cut 10 layers with my AccuQuilt. I can only cut up to 6. So I'm going to cut it into 4 layers and 6 layers. Because it's easier since it's, you know, 2 by 2. It's easier just to go with an even number. Okay, and then just to keep myself not from going too crazy with this extra fabric, I'm going to cut it off. I also don't want it to throw me off in my cutting, because if I, you know, the die will cut perfectly every time, but the operator is subject to human error. So I try to limit my ability to make errors as best I can, because I've made almost every one that exists, I think. All right, so now I've done the strips. And I'm going to place those with that nice blue fabric that I've done here onto the side. So I'm getting ready to cut my fabric now with the tumbler die, with this one. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to place it on the 6 layers and cut it, and then I'm going to turn it and cut it because I want to get maximum use of my fabric and minimum waste. Okay, so I'm going to move the screen so you can see the cutting. And I have a Studio 2, and I've had this. This was actually my original. I've since purchased all the other machines because I think they're all amazing. This is the one that happens to be on my 2nd floor studio where I have my long arm and things. So this is the one I'm going to use. I did put an adapter in it, and I am using the Go die on my studio with an adapter. So the first thing I'm going to do is I've taken my strips that I've cut at 5 inches, and I'm always going to start cutting where the open edges of the fabric are, not where the folded edges are. Because I have found if you do that, and you get to the point at the end where it's not big enough for for a full piece, sometimes you can open it and get some more shapes out of it. Okay, so it's a good way to use up all those ends of fabric that if you had left them here, you could never do that. You couldn't open them. So I always start cutting at the raw edge. Okay, so I'm going to lay it down, and let's do it on this side first. I'm going to lay it, and of course I marked my die so I have it where I need to lay it. I am laying it next to the blades. Now, okay, so I am good. Now, I have heard some people say you should only use the Go cutting mat, and some people say you should use the Studio cutting mat. I find it depends on the die. This one I have to use the Studio because it's a little hot, the blades are a little low, and you know, it's like with anything, not everything is exactly the same all the time, so you just have to adapt. So I'm putting my mat on. Don't look at how worn it is, and I'm going to start. And I'm going to just let it go through and give it a little rub and wipe it off. And these are going to be my first 6. Okay, so there. So I'm going to put them aside. Now I'm going to come back to that side. Normally I would go here and come over to the other side, but since you can't see, I'm going to push my mat back. And this is the way I cut it. So rather than moving and turning the fabric, I'm going to go ahead and turn the die. It's easier. I don't have to realign the fabric. And then I'm going to take it and I'm going to place it as close to that line and as far to the fat edge as I can while still catching all my layers, which is a maximum, as we know, of 6. So I think I'm, yeah, see, this one's a little shorter, so you got to be careful. All right, so I think I'm good. I just want to make sure I'm at the edge of that line. Yeah, I'm pretty good. All right, so I'm just going to lay it down. And I'm going to go get my mat, and I'm going to place it on it, and I'm going to put it in at a little bit of an angle. Even though they already come at an angle, I find sometimes it's just easier using the studio because not all the studio dies are that way. Anyway, so I have now, I'm doing these are 4s, so I'm going to have 4 more. And I want to show you how much fabric is wasted. Look, can you see that? This is it, this little bitty piece. And I'm going to keep going. And I'm going to flip it back and forth. See, the point is when you flip it back and forth, this line edge lines up by the cut edge. And if you're not that comfortable, you don't have to be right on it. You know, I'm just this person who's trying to maximize their fabric every which way. I mean, I've refolded and pressed fabric and ironed it again just to try to get a ½ an inch out of it to get another row. So, okay, and I'll bring it back over. And I'll take it off, and I've got 4 more. And again, let me put them over here. Oh, look, good. This is how much I'm wasting, this little teeny skinny thing. So, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to flip it now that the fabric's not as long. It's easier to manage. Sometimes it's easier to just, you know, you have to do what feels comfortable with you. You know, just because I do it doesn't mean it's what you should do. It's a suggestion of what I have found is easy for me. And you may find it easy for you, or you may say, oh, no, you know, it's not as easy. But that's what, you know, makes it fun. Everybody has different techniques and ideas, and that's why we share. And there's another 4. Now, I could have done 6, but it just so happened that the way I laid this fabric out, what was left of it, I ended up having one layer of 6 and 2 layers of 4. So I'm going to just move that down. That's perfect. And I don't know if you noticed this large pile of leftover fabric there. It's like hardly anything. Oops, let's see if I can get it. There we go. And I'm going to come back around. And again, as I said, I would have probably pushed back and forth left to right, you know, put it over there. But rather than moving the camera, it's easy for me to just push it over. You know, and sometimes things get stuck. And it's not the fault of the die. It's the operator's fault because the operator hasn't gotten a new mat yet. And the mat is pretty wonky right now. So it's totally my fault. The die is working perfectly. And I'm going to do, I think I can get 1 more out of this. Let's see. Well, hello. There you go. So, okay, I'm happy with it there. Let me lay it. And then we're going to count and see how many pieces I actually got. Okay? And I'm going to come around and I'm going to take them off. There you go. Oh, operator error. And that was just 1. Okay. All right, so there we go. So I had 4 layers. Oh, and by the way, this is what's left. Look, it's like nothing. It's this little teeny bit of nothing. I mean, I don't see that as wasteful. I don't know how you could do better than that. But anyway, all right, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've got, now there's one little wonky one, but let's not pretend I didn't see that. There's 6 and there are 4. So I got 24 tumblers out of 1 5-inch strip of fabric with the fabric. I dare you to do better than that. But anyway, it really saves fabric. The cuts are perfect, and I'm delighted. Now I only have about another 15 or 20 strips to go, so I'll let you see my handiwork when it's done. Well, my day at the cutting spa is over. I didn't spend the entire day. I did have lunch. I had a really nice, relaxing lunch. I actually went out and for a couple hours, so I really only spent about maybe 3 or 4 hours at the spa today, but it helped me. So I'm very proud of my cutting. This is all done with the tumbler die. Let me come around. So look at this is what I cut out, and these are actually all Christmas fabrics, believe it or not. Well, they're greens, and there's the gold Christmas, and I want to show you a few of them because they're really cute. But the blues and golds are kind of a little different for me. But I had this fabric. And as I said, these were in my stash. And I'm trying to bust up my stash. And I've made a small dent. But kind of let me show you what I did. So I did 3 colorways. I did the green. Okay, I just marked how many I had of each. This is kind of cool. It's gold specks. And this is just an eye, like a tan with little stars. That's just some fabric left. So there. Okay, so these are all going to kind of go together. And I've got quite a few greens, but what started it was this fabric. Is this cute or what? It's got the little hearts, and I don't know if you can see some of the animals. They have like little Christmas hats on them and stuff. But anyway, so this is going to be fun to do. And there's another solid green one. And then I have, this is my red series. So this is actually a just the fleck, the gold fleck. Can you see it? Yeah. And then this is just a red with a gold imprint. It's a burgundy, really. So that and that. And this is a solid red. And again, the one that started the whole thing is animal fabric, Christmas fabric. Are they adorable? I think most of these are the Debbie Mums. They're old, but they're like from, I don't know, 2000 maybe. So talk about an old stash. So, and that's my reds. And then I did a series of blues. So now, one of these, here, this is another, there's the blue animals. I must have really liked this. I bought every color they had. And then these are different ones. They're kind of hard to read. It was a larger message. It said peace on earth and stuff, but I just cut them up at random. And some of them say peace on earth, and some of them just look wintry. And with those, I made this snowflake, the stars. I thought it went kind of nice. And then I got these, which I think, if you look at them, they're gold and everything, but they look like little paw prints. So I thought they kind of fit. That's just a piece of lint. But anyway, I thought they kind of fit. So anyway, all in all, I was very successful. I cut out 344 green, 248 red, and 282 blue with that one AccuQuilt tumbler die. So, as I said, my cutting spa day is over, so now I have to sew them all together, which will take a little bit longer because cutting was such fun. It never used to be. It was a drudgery, and now I loved it. As you can see, I got a little carried away. I have 700, how many pieces do I have? I don't know, I think I have like 800 pieces that I have to now sew together. 874. Okay, so in between the other things I'm doing, because I am working on some other stuff, I'm working on the snail's trail, say it with the sashing. Anyway, I'll keep you posted. I've got to start working on tumblers now for Christmas and see what other projects I come up with. Have a great day. Keep cutting accurately with AccuQuilt. And keep on sewing and be safe. Oh, and I forgot to tell you, even though I cut 82, whatever pieces it was, out of these and made the tumblers, I had to use up my scraps. This is the fabric I still have left from those pieces. So, you know, the good news is I really was very economical. I hardly used any fabric at all, but I did get 800 pieces out, but I still have an awful lot of fabric left. So I guess I'm going to have to think of other projects to use with this. Oh well, back to the cutting board.